Motivated business owners, welcome to the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight Series. I'm your host, Tim Reid, and today's bright spark is Adam Pisk, the co-founder of BruntWork, an offshore outsourcing business headquartered in Sydney, but with offices globally. Today, we'll be flicking the switch on a number of topics, including how BruntWork has grown to 5,000 employees in just 4 years. Plus, he's going to share his key tips on how you can make offshore outsourcing work to help grow your precious business. Adam, welcome to the Spotlight.
Thanks for having me, Timbo.
Mate, 5,000 employees in just 4 years, and that's a very impressive scoreboard. How did you scale so quickly?
Look, when you're talking about global employment, which is really the world that we're in, global staffing, we're lucky enough to be in a market size that is enormous. And when you've got a global reach like what we do, there's a massive demand for businesses, particularly now small businesses, that didn't have access to these resources really prior to COVID, or the tools, or it wasn't an affordable method for them to go out and go, I need to scale. I'm in Timbuktu. I can't find the type of staff within that can come to an office that live within a few kilometers of where I live. I need better people, and I need the reach for that. So that we were lucky enough to be at the right time at the right place in a market that is just large. And so when you talk about the number of businesses that can benefit from global staffing, it's every business globally. So the scaling really was a factor that we're in a market that is massive, and we're able to capitalize on that.
You mentioned the word luck. Okay, there's probably a lot of luck there, but there's clearly some good strategic planning. Scaling at that pace must bring some massive headaches. What was the biggest, and how did you handle it?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the market size and the opportunity and the demand for global staffing is larger than the scale that we can scale at. In fact, I would say we'd put on the brakes in a lot of ways. And really, like in a business where you've got a lot of demand, the risk is you've got to keep your internal team and internal controls to the same level of quality. And if you expand too quickly and you compromise on that blows everything up. So we're very conscious on that. But the real factor that's changed, and a lot of businesses, I'm not sure that you speak to the major difference that's enabled us to do that has been the onset of AI. Because now the scale that we operate at, hiring hundreds of people a month, being able to, last month we got 66,000 resumes of people globally wanting to work for us.
So
last month, 66,000 resumes. So in order to analyze that and maintain quality and keep that, you need a lot of data. And you need a lot of data, and you need some very smart people analyzing it. And the truth is, if you do that really well, and I spent a lot of time traveling the world looking at the latest AI technologies, we spoke about that previously, it really enables you to scale effectively because of the tech. So it's people and tech that allow that to happen.
This is well, AI. I mean, relatively new. Like us, the great unwashed have only known about it really since 2 years ago. I think it was November, 2022. So you have a great comparison. What's the biggest headache that AI has allowed that's removed from your business? Obviously, being able to look at 66,000 resumes in 1 month is fairly significant.
Yeah. Well, look. The whole thing. Why people come to us? Why do you come to BruntWork? There's 3,500 outsourcing companies that are our competitors, right? 3.5 in the space. So why us? And the real difference, and I can give you 20 reasons, but the one that really matters is we've got to be able to find you the best people for your business globally, and do it faster than anyone else. So best quality and quickly, because that's what you need. And what AI enables, the way that we've embedded it, is to understand the type of business that you are. And so we'll be listening into all our discovery calls, but also know globally, like we've got 2,000 companies that we support now. You're in this type of business. You might be in coaching, consulting, podcasting, plumbing, electrical, anything. In businesses that we've worked with before that are similar to you, that operate in the same type of way, what type of staff have worked well based on our data in the background, AI can analyze that, look at characteristics, look at trends within resumes and the way people answer interviews. It sits in the all back end of that. And with deep learning, improves always along the way. Well, this type of person has worked well in this type of role at scale. Therefore, Timbo needs a new VA. These are the three candidates that we should really put forward. And look, there are people involved in it. We still have 100 people in our own internal recruiting team that help manage the process. You've still got a lot of people too. But AI enables you to do it at a whole different level. So this is well beyond what ChatGPT and etc. It's really machine learning at a big scale.
Adam, I'm keen to understand what the big idea was that launched the BruntWork business originally. However, just for those of us who don't necessarily understand what a BPO is, a business process outsourcing business, describe BruntWork. And how many offices, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I'll get back to that original. I'll answer the BPO. So BPO, business process outsourcing, is sort of the sector that we're defined in. And although I wouldn't say we are a BPO, and I'll explain the difference between that. So in the traditional sense, large enterprise companies, could be your big bank or your big telco, would go to an offshore company and say, hey, we want you to manage our entire customer support function. So they would give that to another company to do. They say, we want phones answered in a certain period of time. This is our FAQs from our website. We want your staff to do that. And you handle our whole process for us. And that's basically what business process outsourcing is large companies going, we're not good at sales, we're not good at customer support, we'll find another company to do that for us, and we'll hand them the whole process. Now, we don't focus on that. We do what is more a global staffing model. So what we believe is, if you give a whole process, you're a company, you give a whole process without any real accountability except for metrics to another company to do, they don't feel there's a disconnect. And so we just don't believe the customer experience is well served when companies go, I want to outsource an entire function of my business to another company. So what we do is we say, hey, if you say, I want to build a customer support team, we say, we'll find the best people with the best experience. If you need management, we'll find them too. If you need executives, we'll find them too. But they will report under your structure. They'll be technically employed by us, or contracted to us, but they'll feel part of your organization. So that's sort of the difference in the way that we do. And we just tested both models over time, and we just found that the results and the cost was better. Because when you outsource a whole function, you've got to take on a whole management level and et cetera. And so we just found it better for the customer and the consumer. In terms of how we started this, I've been involved in outsourcing myself since 2000. So I'm 45 now. I've been in it for 25 years. I started pretty young in business. And originally it was because I stumbled into manufacturing and didn't mean to, but got into that. And I was manufacturing equipment, water treatment systems and other things mainly to the mining industry. And what I found was, in Australia, it was part of this mining, we were in the mining boom. And I couldn't find enough engineers or design engineers. I just couldn't find them in Australia to do the work that mines around the world needed at that time. So I needed to supplement our Australian team with people from elsewhere. And so I set up an engineering team back in 2000 in the Philippines. And then I set up a subsidiary manufacturing plants, actually, in Malaysia and in Korea, etc. And so I got this sense of that I could utilize offshore labor. Yes, there was a significant cost saving, but that wasn't the driver. Mining companies were paying premiums. It wasn't that I was trying to save costs. I just couldn't find the people. So that was what started it. And then really when COVID hit, and I'd done this for a number of other companies since, where they'd either had cost issues or mainly resource issues. And then when COVID hit, I was like, okay, now this is going to be much more accessible to small and medium-sized businesses. There's a real opportunity here. Let's really look to explore this as a business in its own right, rather than just utilizing it for other companies I was involved in.
If you're finding this chat with Adam Fisk, the founder of BruntWork, illuminating, then subscribe to the Small Business Big Marketing Spotlight on your favourite podcast app. Now, Adam, there is a lot of small business owners listening to this. They've probably heard about offshore outsourcing. They may be using it. They know it's going to be a win for their business when they do implement it. How does a business owner decide what to outsource?
Look, the way that I say, the first question that I ask when someone says, where do I get started? Is I say, what can you do in your business that drives the most amount of money to and scale? And what are you actually doing in your business that's not doing that? And when you look at those functions, and then you go, okay, well, I can probably, for most people, find someone in the Philippines for, US $5 an hour or Aussie $10 an hour to do those functions that are stopping you from actually getting more business or being on site and doing revenue generating work or strategic. You're basically valuing yourself at that low price point. And that's the truth of it. What I say to businesses, write down like what you do in a day. Write down all those things that are not valuing yourself at $200, $300, $1,000 an hour, however you want to do it as a business owner, because those other functions, you're valuing yourself at $10 an hour. And we can find specialists who actually can probably do those functions better than you can anyway to do those functions so you can spend more time making money and scaling your business. So that's the starting point. What are the things that you're doing that you really shouldn't be?
And I'd like to add to that. I like the triple D model, which is do, delete, or delegate. So with that list that you're talking about, Adam, put a red line through anything that you just, you don't want to or you shouldn't be doing. Delegate the other stuff, and then only do what you're particularly good at, and what's critical to your business. So that's a good way of approaching it as well. There is outsourcing and there is offshore outsourcing, Adam. Now, BruntWork are in a number of countries globally. Mm-hmm. When do you decide to go offshore versus just finding someone locally? And there's a massive price difference. So obviously price is one criteria.
Look, I'm going to give my own biased view, so anyone listening to this, take that into consideration. We're in 23 countries globally, like for staff, right? So we have clients in 12 countries, we have staff in 23 countries. So our value proposition, I suppose, in relation to that, is it's not that we're going to say, oh, we'll find you the best person in the Philippines or the best person in Colombia or the best person in Thailand or wherever. It's you give us a role and we'll look globally within who the best person for that role is. So my view is it gives you that sense of scale. Now, where local is better than global is if you really need someone to sit down with and they need to be in the same office. You're a builder and you need a bricklayer. You can't really offshore that globally. But if you're trying to expand and scale, you need the best person who gives you the best return for that particular role. And I don't have a lot of companies that are skeptical about this. I say, well, run both processes. Look locally and put a job ad in locally, try and get whoever you can there. We do it for free anyway. So that in terms of the recruiting side, so there's no risk. It's a 30-day month by month commitment, so there's no real downside. You can change your agent anytime. The risk is so low. So just try it. and if you find someone local who's amazing, great. Yeah. No problem. Yeah. What do you lose by putting us in the race?
Adam, is it right that certain countries, it's a generalisation, but are good at certain things? So, for example, my perception is that Philippines, great customer service, fantastic financially because there's a lot of tertiary qualified accountants, bookkeepers, etc. I understand that Vietnam's great for coding, or Eastern Europe's great for coding. Am I is that too generalist?
No, not at all. It's where different education systems really in countries, and obviously, we have some great coders in the Philippines too, but that doesn't have the scale. So you go generally to parts of the world where there's either educational institutions that are more focused on certain things, and therefore you have a deeper talent pool for that. Mm-hmm. So you are right. The other thing is there are other limitations. Vietnam is great for coding, not great for English. So you sort of want to go to Vietnam when you've got enough work to really have a team, and your team leader will speak English, and the rest of the coders are probably, their English is not so great, but that's okay because you're basically forming a development team there. Whilst in other countries, English is more widely spoken, so that can be a factor as to where we go. But definitely, there are certain countries with certain roles that we would focus more on than others.
Adam, let's talk about tips for successful offshore outsourcing, because my experience in the past, both with myself and just watching other listeners of my podcast do this, is that some think it's a silver bullet. Some think, okay, great, I've got my VA in the Philippines or wherever, and they are going to be doing everything. They are a Swiss Army pocket knife. They can transcribe, they can code, they can do customer service. Now, that person doesn't exist here. Why should they exist elsewhere? So I guess my first tip is treat your offshore staff member as a staff member, as you would one who's sitting locally. Tip number one. Would you agree? And what's your next tip?
Look, 100%. That's it. And we say, look, if you were hiring that role locally, what would be the job description that you could find someone to do? And you wouldn't find someone who's a marketing specialist, a bookkeeper, and a coder. In the one person who's good at all of those things. A lot of people say, I want a marketing specialist who knows social media, who knows SEO, who knows Google AdWords. And again, they're specialist niches. It's like, I want an electrician, a plumber, and a builder, and I want them to be all good at everything. So you hire globally the same way you hire locally. You treat them as your staff member, like what you said. Yes, they're technically under our umbrella from a legal perspective, but actually they should be seen as your staff, and you should treat them like other staff members. And that also means that you have to train them. So obviously, if you want someone with certain expertise, I want a bookkeeper, yes, we'll find someone who understands Xero or MYOB or QuickBooks and is a chartered accountant, etc. So they'll have the qualifications, but they're not going to know your business and how you do it. So a lot of people go, but I'm just too busy. I'm running my own business. I need someone just to come in now and make it all work. But you've got to be realistic about that. And the way we see it fail is if someone just says, I'm too busy to manage someone effectively, let alone that they're at the other side of the world, and they don't put the time aside. And yes, that person's got the skills, but they're not able to deliver results because there's no training or onboarding. And you wouldn't do that if you hired someone locally. You wouldn't just go, day one, off you go, and you're off to the races.
Of course.
So that's an important thing.
And I've watched some of my colleagues actually get a great offshore outsourcing team and go over there and visit them, wherever there may be, Philippines or wherever it may be. And quite the opposite too, bring them over and have them spend a week or two in your business with your team. That can be a reward 12 months in, or it can be something you do straight off the bat if you're feeling confident that this is the right person. Adam, what about another tip for these small business owners listening to optimize their outsourcing?
Yeah, look, particularly for small business, you don't need to start with everything. And one of the things that a lot of small businesses come and they go, I'm frustrated, I'm overworked, and I need all this help, and I probably need a team of 5 people, but they've never done this before. So look, there's no issue in starting small. We do roles from part-time, 20 hours a week. So my advice for someone who's getting into this is you don't need to be too ambitious in the beginning. Get a sense of managing people remotely. And we help you with that. So there's a lot of good tools that, that we can help you with, that we can show you how to utilize. Get a sense of managing someone remotely. And again, with remotely, it's a different, to get the most out of it, I say to manage out from an output perspective rather than a time perspective. So sure, everyone's on a schedule, they've got a roster, but really you need to be very clear with deliverables, KPIs, metrics to manage someone well from an offshore perspective. And if you haven't done that before, that takes time. So get used to it, and then it's very easy. It's also easier for us to help you scale, because if we find someone that works well for you, we then know the type of person that works well in your organization. It's easy to find a second or a third once we've got the first.
Adam, just to wrap things up, you've got your outsourcing person. Paint the picture of, do you set them up with an office, technology, any particular training, and talk to us about costs.
Okay. So we're a completely remote work from home model. And the reason for that is that in the countries that we operate in, the average time for our staff when we had offices to get to work, average time was 2.5 hours each direction. So our average staff member, and there were ones that were far worse than this, were traveling 5 hours a day. And that's not driving down the road on a nice Tesla on the Sunshine Coast. That's in the back of a jeepney, generally in the rain. So what would happen is when we started moving from home, first of all, we got the best candidates applying because everyone wanted to do it. Second of all, we got more productivity because they're actually awake because they could sleep because they weren't commuting 5 hours a day, and they were just so much happier. And then also more loyal because they want to keep that job rather than getting terminated and having to go back to an office somewhere. So we moved exclusively to a work from home model, and the technology we believe now is there to manage that effectively. And again, if you need a team environment, we have boardrooms all over the world that we can bring team members together physically if we need to for meetings or fly clients over there. So that's not really an impediment. In terms of technology as well, we know the areas in the developing world that have reliable power, strong internet. Our staff have to have backup internet. So they get set up with a computer, noise cancelling headphones, internet connection. We have to do all the tech checks before they get started with us. So they're set up in an office environment. They've got to pass our checks to be able to work from home. So they have a quiet office space, and they've got all the technology to operate with fast internet, etc.
What I love about all this that BruntWork offers, Adam, is the downside is just so low. And, as business owners, it's all about risk and there's fear involved. And it's like, oh, gee, I really want to, but I don't know whether I should. The way you've just described the BruntWork offering and the whole offshore outsourcing premise, there's very low risk. And just imagine if it worked.
Well, you asked me about price. I forgot to mention that. So our average staff member globally in US dollars is about $6.70 US an hour as an average. So we say between $4 to $8 US for most roles. So Aussie dollars, which is where you are, you get most staff between $9 and $13 an hour. Aussie dollars would be the main range.
Good. And is there a sign-up or is there an ongoing monthly maintenance fee?
No. That includes everything. Computer, internet, payroll, HR, IT, that's all inclusive. At the end of the month, you get an invoice, hours worked times hourly rate. That's it.
BruntWork.co is where to find Adam and his team. Is that the best place to go, Adam? Is there
that is, Timbo. If anyone mentions this podcast as well, we'll give them a $500 credit to their first service invoice if they sign up. That's $500 US. So that's even less risk.
The risk just got less. So this is a no-risk proposition. Go for it, team. BruntWork.co.
It works.
Adam Pisk, been absolutely fantastic getting some insight into what is a very, very important part of running a business, which is people and getting the right people. So thank you. BruntWork.co. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks for your time, Timbo.